Parliament passes Conservative motion to demand government decision on Huawei and the 5G network. This is the Great White North Report. Right, finally, Parliament passes Conservative motion to demand government decision on Huawei and 5G. It also calls on Liberals to develop a plan to curb intimidation of Canadian citizens by China. And it's about friggin' time. Opposition parties have banded together and have passed a motion calling for the government to make their decision on whether to allow Huawei to supply equipment for Canada's next generation of 5G wireless networks. It's a united federal opposition, so members of all parties came together finally and supported a Conservative motion to insist that the Liberals take a harder line against what it says is a national security threats from China. Sponsored by Conservative Foreign Affairs critic Michael Chong, it passed Wednesday by last week 179 to 146. It means the NDP also supported this and calls on the government to decide within 30 days whether to allow China's Huawei technologies to supply equipment to Canada. This has been a long time coming. I've been calling this for 2 years now, and it's about time somebody took the logical step. I don't know why the Conservatives didn't do this a year ago after the election. It also calls on the government to take a table a plan within 30 days to deal with growing intimidation by China of Canadians within Canada's borders. Anytime there's been a pro-Hong Kong democracy movement or a pro-Tibetan or pro-Uyghur movement in Canada, there's been a counter protest by the Chinese Communist Party whipping up its mostly mainland Chinese students who come to study in Canada. The Chinese Communist Party keeps tabs of all their citizens within Canada through the consulates and embassies and Confucius Institutes and whatnot. Now, the Liberal government has delayed for the longest time since China imprisoned 2 Canadians, Kovrig and Spavor, nearly 2 years ago, as a retaliation for making the merciless arrest in Vancouver for extradition to the United States. And they targeted Canada because Canada is currently holding her, hoping that they will give her up instead of sending her to the States. Well, Trudeau kind of shot that in the ass by saying he doesn't regret that decision and sticking with the rule of law, something the Chinese Communist Party knows absolutely nothing about. Now, the U.S. says Huawei is an espionage arm of the Chinese military, and that is completely true. It can be used for that. In their supposed constitution that all companies and all entities must at any time give the Communist Party information, regardless of any prior agreements. They have to do it. Of course, Huawei has never received a complaint from Canadian government because we've had no reason to until recently. Huawei didn't have the technology when they first came to Canada 12 years ago. Now they do. They've stolen enough technology and have so many backdoors, and they can be used for espionage. So right now there's no greater threat to Canada's interest than the rise of China in global affairs, and that's completely true. It's going to get worse. China is currently claiming that they are a near Arctic power. Why is that? Because with global warming and the ice sheets melting in the Arctic Circle, the Northwest Passage is going to open up. And China wants cheaper routes to more markets, and they want the natural resources that will be opened up in that region. That's why they're sending so many ships up there themselves to map out the ocean floor. They will probably try and do the same thing they did in the South China Sea, where they either build an artificial island or they find an island that's been under ice for millennium and claim it as their own and start building a base there. And there's not much Canada can do to stop it. And the United States, led by Biden, will probably allow it to happen because Obama-Biden administration allowed China to build those islands in the South China Sea. We've tolerated China's human rights abuses, intellectual property theft, and manipulative trade practices for decades in order to gain access to the country's burgeoning economy. And now it's time to stop that. It's time to pull out. Companies are already pulling out. It's time that Canada stop doing that. Right now, a lot of Canadian money is flowing to China through investment, thanks to your Canadian pension plan. And it's going into what's considered a Ponzi scheme. Think about that. So basically our approach to China has been that we open up the country economically. It gets rich, it sees the advantages of working with us, and then it gets rid of the harder communist-like stuff and moves towards a rule of law system. It never worked. And admitting China to all our World Trade Organization has been catastrophic for our Canadian workers, and that's totally true. Now, it's no secret that Huawei's founder has close ties to China's Communist Party leadership, O'Toole said, and the technology being used to spy, and that's completely true. Their success has been due to years of industrial espionage against now defunct Canadian tech company Nortel. Northern Telecom died. It went to China, because I know my uncle used to work there, and he went to China to help them. Now, Trudeau's waiting to see what our allies say and what our intelligence agency says. Well, they've already told him. And he still refuses to make a decision. Though he's still sitting on the fence. China is dangling that carrot in front of him. And Canadian businesses too. Now, O'Toole went on to say that Canada tolerated the proliferation of Confucius Institutes, the state-backed Chinese language centers that push state propaganda. That's true. You can't talk about Tibet, Uyghurs, or Hong Kong in those places. Also, our Canadian universities, we've taken Chinese money, mainly in the form of their students, to help pay for the cost of our universities. Our universities rely on the money these mainland Chinese students bring in. It's time to stop that little gravy train and allow Canadian students to go back to Canadian universities. Our professors have been bullied into weakening their teachings on human rights abuses for fear of offending mainland Chinese students, half of whom wouldn't take those kind of classes. And most of them don't even understand English anyway, because they cheat to get here. And our Canadians of Chinese origin have been threatened by foreign agents in our own country. Anti-Hong Kong protests were organized in Canada to bully democracy activists. Same with Uyghur students have been deplatformed and menaced in coordinated actions led by Chinese consulates across our country. Simple. Close the consulates. Only have one embassy in China, or better yet, pull our own embassies and consulates out of mainland China and base them in Taiwan under the one China, two government policy, if that's the case. One China, two systems. We're just choosing which system we prefer. We could kick the CCP out. The Chinese Communist Party should actually be outlawed in this country. A lot of Chinese Canadians who have family back home, their family are threatened back in China by the CCP, or any financial assets they have in China or abroad are threatened by the Communist Party. That's how they keep control over the people. Now, Australia has finally woken up. And they are starting to make the penalties a lot harder on powers who do espionage in Australia. Canada should do the same thing. You get caught spying for a foreign government, you're sitting life in prison. Life imprisonment, and you're in a cell with one of the biker gangs, with the bandito guy. You learn some hard lessons in life. Now, of course, O'Toole said that while he's concerned about the status of the two Canadians, Carver and Spavor, the current government's approach hasn't yielded results, and that's true. Trudeau hasn't been tough enough on China. China has more than once tried to hurt Canada economically in order for us to release Meng the Merciless. Did hostage diplomacy with Spavor and Carver. The Chinese Communist Party has put themselves in such a corner that they can't back down without losing face. And it's all about face in Asia. You know, I've been there. You need to take a stronger approach and start hitting them where it hurts. And all CCP members from Canada, find out which ones have financial assets within Canada and nationalize those. Take those. Start with all those homes. Meng the Merciless has 2 homes in Vancouver. They're worth $1 million each. To repossess them and put her in jail. We should be working more closely with our Five Eyes allies, which is Australia, New Zealand, UK, and USA, and bolster our relations with other nations who are not too friendly with China right now. The Philippines, India, Indonesia, Vietnam. The list goes on and on and on. Because nobody likes the Chinese Communist Party. Alright, anyone out there, let me know what you guys think about should we ban Huawei or not? I want to know. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system.